Hello and welcome to Newsbreak at 7. I'm Veera Raghav. Our top focus this evening, after serious concerns over caste discrimination on campus following the death of a first-year B.Tech student Bharat Solanki in February this year, IIT Bombay has now come out with a series of guidelines which it hopes will help avert caste overtones on campus. That's the hope, at least. Bharat Solanki, remember, was a first-generation Dalit student, and his parents had alleged that the boy had faced caste discrimination. Higher dropout rates amongst scheduled caste students is also a matter of growing concern, not just in IIT Bombay but at IITs across the country. Some of the newly introduced guidelines at IIT Bombay, including one, not asking each other about rank in the entrance exam, not asking for any information that could reveal caste, obviously prohibiting students from sharing messages that are abusive or casteist, and the guidelines also urge students to bond over sport and other recreational activities. Well, the issue of caste discrimination is well beyond the campus of IIT Bombay. It's an essential one across higher education institutions in the country. Joining us now is Professor Sudarshan Kumar, Deputy Director of IIT Bombay. Also with us, Dr. Suraj Yangde, author and columnist. But first to you, Professor Sudarshan Kumar. Some of these measures that you have introduced, while it seems nice to see them, how difficult is it going to be to implement it? For instance, not wanting to know much about each other's marks or scores. It's something that could potentially come up for conversation. How do you go about implementing these?
Okay, first a small correction. My name is S. Sudarshan, not Sudarshan Kumar, who is my dear colleague. So coming back to your question, see, we are part of a society where various biases exist. As an institute, we do our best to minimize these things and educate our incoming students about what is the right thing to do. And these guidelines are part of this effort. It is not a new thing. We have been doing this every year as part of our new student orientation. This year, we have codified it and added a few small points extra from what was there before, including the issue of JE rank and so forth, which was also conveyed informally last year, but this year we have formalized it. So we do our best to minimize it.
Right. So
nothing will be perfect, but we do hope that things will continue to improve over time.
But as an administrator, as somebody who's in charge of the campus, when you go about attending and dealing with these social sensitivities, how much is it, coming up with guidelines while at the same time having open, honest conversation about some kind of reform with students? How do you go about that process?
So, as I said, we have orientations when students come in, and discrimination has various forms. Caste is definitely one of the very important ones, but gender is another. There are also religious, sexual orientation, and several more. So we have active set of sessions during orientation, and last year we also introduced an online compulsory course on gender sensitization, which every student, every staff, and every faculty member has to take that online course. And at the end of the course, there is a quiz which they have to pass. So this is one of the steps which we took for gender sensitization. Now, for the caste sensitization, we are in the process of creating a similar course. It's partly done, and our first year students will be taking that course coming up, and eventually we will roll it out, as I said, to all students, faculty, staff. So these are all part of our efforts to minimize the chance of discrimination on campus and to educate our students about why this is important.
Sir, this is an issue that, as I mentioned, which is well beyond IIT Bombay itself. Now, you have come up with a series of guidelines. Are there internal conversations going on? Because A, this is a social reality, and B, especially in institutes of excellence, it is something that people feel gets pronounced because of the pressures that students go through at these institutes. So, is there a part of an ongoing conversation which is beyond just IIT Bombay on this?
We have not had a conversation with others, but at the government level, there have been several efforts. I think there was the Sukhdev Thorat committee, which had guidelines which have been shared with all the educational institutions through UGC. So there are certainly many things which are being done in the broader spectrum of India. And gender cells and ICC, for example, is also mandatory. It's part of the law. So these things have to be done by all education institutions. In fact, it's beyond education institutions in some of these cases. So I think it is an all India effort is needed for this.
Okay, I also have with me Dr. Suraj Yangde, who joins us in this conversation. Dr. Suraj, what would you have to say? You know, there are some guidelines that IIT Bombay has released. We still seem to be struggling with the undercurrents of caste in campuses or even in institutes of excellence.
I think I read the news report that IIT Bombay has come out with a comprehensive program to tackle caste, and there's been so many positive steps. I think that's a welcoming move, and I'm just excited as to what it looks like. And I was also pleased to hear from Professor Sudarshan that they're also working on the mandatory course for students on caste. I think this is really a very enforceable as well as encouraging move. What we ought to do with that is the kind of goodwill of the institution, which is to protect the students despite caste, despite gender, sexual orientation. It's also to then recruit more faculty on board. That's one of the long-standing issues. Due to the Institute of Eminence, what they have a kind of a leeway is to have flexible grading, which does not amount to a direct recruitment. And that's why the government of India had to come down on IITs to do the mission mode. Yet we don't have an encouraging response from the IITs. And of course, there's been so many plethora of candidates coming through. So what that will do is the kind of efforts that the institution is trying to do, which is very inspiring for other IITs, and I hope other IITs will take the cue from IITB, but also then joining forces with having faculties and then pushing out for more of doctoral level students belong to the historically marginalized communities, SC, ST, and OBC. That will really just give the institutional motive and vision a right direction, or else it will merely be a show off. It's one of those government circulars that you put on a notice board for students to do X, Y, Z, and the SC, ST, or any SL officer would just sign up. So we don't want that. We just want it to be really, it should come from the heart. It should come from the goodwill. And I can see with the kind of solid kind of Darshan Solanki post, the kind of work that has been undertaken really brings to light. And I think we can just hope, and it's just about time that IIT really shows and demonstrates its leadership, that we are just not going to be a tokenistic institution trying to cater to certain grade of people or communities and castes, but really draw its forces, bring faculty from diverse communities. And also, I think IITB and likewise other IITs should get more SC, ST faculty on important recruitment boards, give them more leadership positions. So what that does is, if I'm a Dalit student, and this happens, and especially in America where I'm at, what they do usually is, if you see a person of a certain color, and here color becomes important, sexuality becomes important, gender, it really creates a positive, welcoming environment. If Darshan Solanki has a professor belonging to his caste, at least he can go and confide in him that, Professor, I have this and this issue. And this is what happened to me. When I went first to Harvard, I really felt left out. I really felt discouraged, even though I had won this prestigious fellowship to go. But here's what happened. I went to my professor, and I told him, Professor, this is my issue. And the professor was not somebody one can identify as a white or WASP of origin. He told me, Suraj, I also feel similar. Now, here's this tenured faculty, a big scholar of this field, telling me that, Suraj, I also do. And he gave me an advice, which was very important for me to sustain through this ivory towers and this penetrating gazes.
It's a very important personal anecdote, Suraj, that you come up with. A very important personal anecdote. Professor Sudarshan, we have very little time, but in terms of creating inclusive faculty and an inclusive atmosphere, and what Suraj is pointing out is not just on paper, in terms of spirit. Let's be honest, in terms of spirit, as a professor, as somebody who sees students on a day-on-day basis, how much of a challenge is it to create that, bring in that real spirit of genuine reflection within to create an equal and an inclusive environment?
So to answer what Suraj was saying earlier, all the IITs now are recruiting faculty from all the categories. And at IIT Bombay, we have recruited quite a number. Now, as you know, that the number of people, regardless of category, who who meet the standards of IIT in a particular year, is relatively small. So we may not be able to hire all the people that we want to in a short period without, regardless of category. But I can tell you that we have recruited quite a few faculty from all the reserved categories, and we are very happy with them. We are very happy that they have joined us. And as Suraj said, they have been and will increasingly be a resource which students can turn to so that they have somebody, as Suraj said, who can understand where they come from and what are the issues that they face. So this is definitely something that we at IIT Bombay and IITs are doing.
May I just...
it's just one step at a time. Yes, you have last 10 seconds, Suraj. Please go ahead.
I mean, just if at all, Professor Sudarshan, the leadership could really go out on really looking out for the candidates and be robust and rigorous, but yet be convicted that we ought to recruit the marginalized community, the reserved categories. If we do that, then we can certainly find the talent that's out there. If we just rely on the candidates who are not coming in, and so that might just be a big loophole, and that might just not demonstrate the fruition that you are trying to come out. But certainly, it's a very encouraging step, and I congratulate IITB for that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Suraj, as well as Professor Sudarshan, for joining. And sorry, I had to cut you short of this very, very important, sensitive conversation that needs to take place. But it's one step forward. It needs to go a long way up. Thank you too for joining us and sharing your thoughts from caste on campus to what one could argue is caste in the underbelly of food habits. Infosys Foundation chairperson Sudha Murthy is known for being frank and outspoken, and her recent comments that a quote-unquote pure vegetarian being one, she only looks out for pure vegetarian restaurants as she is worried about, quote, same spoon being used for vegetarian and non-vegetarian food, has gone viral with sharp reactions on Twitter and other social media platforms. It's a massive, sensitive topic, one that could reveal different sensibilities beneath the surface of the politically correct. And this afternoon, around lunchtime, I tried to find out what people in Bengaluru had to say about it. Are you a vegetarian or are you a non-vegetarian? And if you're a vegetarian, will you eat in a non-vegetarian restaurant or with someone having non-vegetarian food? These are all matters of personal choice. What Sudha Murthy's comments seem to have triggered off is the underbelly of the food habits conversation. Many would argue there is a sense of casteism, a sense of condescension towards the non-vegetarian, a sense from the vegetarian that being non-vegetarian is impure. While the orthodox would then argue that it's a matter of conditioning or personal habit. There are two different points of view on this, and to understand that, we went across Bengaluru first to a pure vegetarian restaurant and then to a non-vegetarian restaurant. We are here at this famous vegetarian restaurant in Bengaluru called Nisarga, which is right opposite the police commissioner's office, with people who stick only to vegetarian restaurants when they come out for lunch or dinner. Sir, there is a conversation going on Twitter, basically, that some vegetarians find it very difficult, even if a spoon is used to serve non-vegetarian food, they don't want to eat that. There is a sense that this is perhaps regressive and archaic. What is your opinion on it?
Because some people, they are very, very conservative, I should say, because they don't like non-veg. They don't take also, they don't even entertain non-veg people surrounding the area. But we are not like that. Okay, but as long as they are not hampering our this thing,
Okay. But is there do you feel a sense of discomfort eating in a non-vegetarian restaurant?
No, not really. But when you come to think of it, maybe about 2 decades ago, went to an Elias restaurant and asked for a cheeseburger without beef. He will take out beef in front of you. That possibly we don't like. We don't mind getting the whole things are separated, but not mixing the two together. Separation in our presence. We presume vegetarian restaurants everything is okay. In non-vegetarian is eaten close by also is okay. That's what things are clean and neat.
But you will not feel uncomfortable if somebody is sitting right opposite you eating non-vegetarian, if they're serving you with the same food?
No, because we don't know, we don't like that smell and all, definitely. But as long as they are not hampering our style of eating, it's okay. No problem.
Okay. You would also agree to that? Would you feel uncomfortable?
When it comes to food, it's a matter of taste. Taste is totally personal. You like bitter gourd, somebody may not like bitter gourd at all. But may like it very much also. Similarly, this taste of veg and non-veg is a personal liking, a personal habit also. To that extent, we should not encroach into personal liberty. And as long as the etiquette on the table is maintained, not making noisy eating and not trying to spill over on or come over onto our plate. And as far as they maintain the hygiene and the etiquette of eating, we should allow them to have their own style of eating.
But what would you say to those who believe that comments like this or wanting to stay away from non-vegetarian food is very archaic and Brahminical or perhaps casteist?
Sometimes it is a matter of personal experience. Eating in a way it's not like if you are trying to pull out something from your teeth while eating. It doesn't look nice. It looks somewhat unhygienic. And that makes a deep impression in having a company of that kind to eat. See, eating is an enjoyable happening also as a matter of in life. So companion also matters. Okay, from that point of view, the company should be such that it is hygienic, it's of the same taste, same liking.
But you wouldn't say anything beyond the fact that it is purely just a
We
person.
are having companion with such people, we avoid going to non-veg hotels. Isn't it? We'll not go there. We'll go to only pure vegetarian hotels.
But this is nothing to do with the social regressive mindset, maybe something you need to accept. You don't think everyone needs to change and perhaps be more accommodative?
It may be very difficult because their mindset. So we cannot change their mindset. They will not come definitely to such hotels.
I quite agree. We should be accommodative, neat and clean. Stick to our own points.
Etiquette.
Lot to do with caste also, no? It's very Brahminical.
That is Brahminical, vegetarians and Vaishyas and Jainism and Marwadis. They are all purely vegetarians. Vaishyas. They are all purely vegetarians. They won't mind. They won't take vegetarian food in non-veg hotels also. But nowadays, because of they are traveling in a train. What to do? They are traveling in a aeroplane. They serve both this thing. They will take vegetarian item, then don't see that the other part.
We are here at this famous non-vegetarian restaurant in Bengaluru's Church Street called Empire with a bunch of students who are here having a fascinating meal of chicken, mutton and all the gravy that's there with it. What about those vegetarians who feel that it is disgusting to sit with a non-vegetarian? It is difficult to even share a table with a non-vegetarian eating food. What do you have to say to them?
See, if they feel disgusted, I feel like they should respect non-vegetarians as well, because us being non-vegetarians, we don't like what ghasfus you are eating. We're okay with it. If you don't want to eat non-vegetarian, we are okay with it, right? But you should not judge us, because we are eating what we like and you are eating what you like. So they should not, feel disgusted. But there are people who feel disgusted. But my friend over here, he's not like that. But there are most of the majority people are like, they are eating non-veg, they should stay away from us. We should stay away from them. So it is not right.
Right. So your friend here is actually a vegetarian, right? You are a vegetarian here, right?
Yeah.
you're a vegetarian and you're okay with eating with all your friends whatever non-vegetarian they serve?
Yeah, it's matter of consent, right? See, I'm sitting with them and eating a vegetarian food here, so it's fine because it's up to their belief that if I wanted to eat a non-veg, I could have, but I don't want to because I am a vegetarian, right? So I'm just sitting with them and having my own food, and they are having their own food.
So what about those who find it repulsive? Some people find the smell, some people find the whole idea repulsive and they don't want to sit in a non-vegetarian restaurant. Do you have friends like that? If you have friends like that, what would you tell them?
See, it's nothing like that because even he is a pure vegetarian and he doesn't mind to sit next to me and eat, right? It depends on yourself, like what are you, and like for example, think if you're going to a brewery and having drinks like with your friends, and some people don't drink, they will have only side dish. Same thing applies here. If they want to, they will. If they don't want to, they won't, right?
Yeah, so it's a matter of choice, correct? It is a matter of choice. But then how would you respond to them? What would you tell, let's say there is a friend who says that, look, I find the smell of non-veg very repulsive. I don't want to sit next to you. What would you tell them?
I would rather prefer that person to sit quite afar from where he or she won't get that smell, because it's like I do support the one thing that you might not be okay with certain things, but you should not impose your things on others until unless, and you should not, to some extent, you should not get affected by it. If you're getting affected by it, so stay away from it. Yeah, it's like that.
Okay. No, but why do you think some people feel that way? You're a vegetarian yourself, right? Why do you think some people feel that way in your homes or whatever else, saying that, look, I won't go into a non-veg restaurant itself? What is the reason?
I'll take myself as an example. So my dad, who doesn't eat outside food, like restaurants itself, so he doesn't prefer, this mixed veg and non-veg food because it's his belief, right? So in the end, it matters to the person's belief whether he wants to eat it or not. So if he wants to eat it, he can go to a mixed restaurant and I can have it. But some people it's like they just don't want to. So that is left to them.
It's more a matter of conditioning and habit. You all enjoy your meal. What are you eating now here today?
I'm eating alfam and kubus.
Okay. And you're a vegetarian on Saturdays?
Yeah, exactly. Semi-vegetarian.
Okay.
And that doesn't work out when you go to other places. Like you can't tell that like everywhere I'll get pure veg restaurant only, right? Think if you're traveling to some places in some hill station where you can't get food, what will you do in that time, right?
Yeah, so it's a matter of compulsion as well as choice, they say. That's what these students here have to say, that look, it's a matter of everybody's individual choice. You eat what you like, just make sure that you're not repulsed by what I eat. Well, it's a matter of choice and belief, but one that could often result in conflict, whether in domestic environments where you have a vegetarian or non-vegetarian in your house or in a social environment. We'll have to scratch beneath the surface to understand our own belief systems, but that's all we have time for on this show. The news continues here on NDTV.